Well, in the meantime, the latest drama is about this issue of wiretapping. The president insists that his predecessor was tapping his phones and anything he could get his hands on at Trump Tower. Karl Rove weighing in on all of that. You know, Karl, it seemed blasphemous of reading and watching the media coverage of this, that this even happened. But there was precedent, certainly in the Obama White House, using the IRS to target conservative groups, the Justice Department to go after reporters, including our own James Rosen. Whether that directly involved the president is anyone's guess. But my point is, it's not as if this would be a totally alien concept. But what do you think of this as an issue that will have weight going forward?
Yeah. Well, look, it's clear there was some intercepts of some people somewhere in Trump Tower last year. A FISA court gave a warrant to do so. I would have left it there. And if it turned out that President Obama was involved in it, then the intelligence committees in the House and Senate would have discovered that. There would be a paper trail someplace. And
would there
you could
always
have made
be,
that
though,
charge
Karl?
later.
Would there be? I mean, let's say the president wanted to go about this, or they had sufficient reason to believe that an individual, in this case the next president of the United States, was in contact with Russian authorities. And would that get out? In other words, would that suspicion get out?
Sure. Look, both of these committees have the ability to issue subpoenas and compel testimony. They would follow the chain back. They would look at whose name was on the order to the FISA court to tape or intercept the conversations or tap the computer of whom. They would then be able to look at the people at the FBI who were behind that request. They'd be able to follow this back, and I'm confident, particularly after the president's comments this weekend, that they're going to be asking anyone, was somebody from the White House, you know, who told you to do this and why, and follow that chain to wherever it leads. Now, I don't think it's going to end up in the White House. My sense is that this emerged, it looks like, because they were monitoring a source abroad, found it tapping a computer server in the Trump Tower, and they went after that. But I don't think there's any anticipation, any expectation that they were wiretapping Donald Trump himself. They might have been tapping a computer. They might have been tapping the cell phones of others around him, but not Trump or his key players.
All right. Now, at this point, it might change later today. James Comey at the FBI had sort of had a rescind order against that presidential order. The FBI, you know, look into this and all that, and he stopped it. Now, what was odd is that the Bureau didn't follow up on that. Now, that could change, but what do you make of that separate issue?
Well, it's getting confusing, more confusing, because we hear bits and pieces.
Right.
We heard,
and it might not be the case. It might not be the case.
Yeah, obviously a leak from Comey's office that he had asked the Justice Department to flat out say that the president's statement was inaccurate. He felt that the president's statement reflected badly on the FBI. But look, here's the deal. We have two adults in the room. One is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Richard Burr of North Carolina. The other is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes. I think particularly Burr is likely to follow this through. He's got an adult committee in the Senate. Nunes is an adult, but he's got some some truants among the Democrats on his committee, most notably the ranking Democrat on the committee. But I have confidence, particularly that the Senate is going to be able to investigate these things in an impartial way, and later this year we'll hear from them on what they know. And I thought the White House was very smart on Sunday, saying we have referred that we want the Senate Intelligence Committee to look into the idea that President Obama ordered this, and we have nothing more to say until they finish their investigation. Smart on their part. This is not a winner for anybody to be talking about it now, particularly with the big agenda that the Trump administration has.
But they threw the grenade, right? They threw that.
Oh,
grenade,
yeah,
right?
yeah. No, well, he threw the grenade. I'm not certain how many in his squad were excited about him throwing that grenade. But now that the grenade has been thrown and the explosion has gone off, they want to contain the damage. And I thought it was a wise move on Spicer's part to say we're not going to be talking about this anymore, because they didn't have a good Sunday morning trying to explain the president's comments. I mean, one of their spokesmen said, if this happened, and if this happened, and if this happened, and the quick rejoinder from Martha Raddatz on ABC was, well, the president wasn't using if. He made a specific accusation. What do you have to back it up?
Yeah, and Susan Collins going so far as to say, don't keep doing this, but I'm paraphrasing there. But let me step back real quickly and get your take on the bigger picture between relations between former administration and this administration. Your old boss, President Bush, despite, I'm sure, wincing at constantly getting blamed for every ill that occurred under Barack Obama, kept his counsel, kept his lips closed, and resisted the urge to go after President Obama. Given this poison well atmosphere, and it might be short-lived, do you think that this is going to come back to bite the president, or for that matter, the former president, and that can't be constructive?
Well, look, either President Obama or President Trump is going to be damaged and suffer depending on the outcome of the investigation. If the Senate Intelligence Committee comes back and says President Obama's White House played a role in getting this warrant issued to listen to these lines or to tap into this computer, then President Obama's reputation will suffer. If, on the other hand, there's no such evidence, and this was this request for the FISA court was generated entirely within the FBI, then President Trump is going to look badly in this situation. I will say this. I have relative confidence in the FISA court operating in an entirely appropriate manner. That's not to say that somebody at the beginning of this chain might not have acted inappropriately, but the FISA judges, there are 7 of them, they're selected by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. There are very meticulous standards that have to be met in order for these warrants to be issued. That's why most of the warrants are issued, because the standard is very explicit, right, and they have to show certain findings. And so there was some smoke somewhere. I don't think it had to do with Trump. I don't think it had to do with the key players in the committee, but I do think there could have been somebody associated with the campaign. We know that a former advisor whom Trump doesn't really know, an energy advisor who played around in Russian energy ventures, was in communication with people in Moscow. Right. That's what I think we're going to end up at the end of the day seeing. But you're right. At the end of the day, either President Obama or President Trump is going to have egg on their face depending on what the Intelligence Committee finds.
All right, we'll watch. Karl, good seeing you again. Thank you very much. Karl Rove.
Thank you, Neil.